Happy New Year's, guys. So, yeah, it's 2020 now. 2019 just ended, and I've seen a lot of people do their own videos of their favorite games, their top 10s or top 5s, their favorite games of 2019. Even though they did that in 2019, I'm usually the type of person who likes to wait to the end of the year to really start talking about like my favorite games of that year, right? Because I usually tend to kind of, finish backlogs around December or so it gives me time to kind of go back and finish games that I just didn't get around to, or whatever the case may be. So that's what this video is going to be about. Today I'm going to give you guys my top 5 favorite games of 2019. I do have 10 through 6, which are these games right here. Make sure to play them. They're all great games. 10 through 6, fantastic games, but I didn't want to spend too long talking about these games, so I figured, here you go. But with that being said, let's talk about the rest of my favorite games, and yeah, let's get on with it. Number 5, Metro Exodus. So yeah, Metro Exodus starts off my top 5, I guess, and I really like this game. It gave me a sort of taste that I don't really get often when it comes to shooters, especially of this, era of shooters, I suppose. There are shooters that do what Metro Exodus does. I'm not going to say that Metro Exodus is this totally, unique experience. It does, borrow a couple of things here and there. But the thing with Metro Exodus is that I haven't played a game like this in quite some time, and previous games of the series were typically kind of linear. Metro Exodus kind of does away with that and goes completely open-ended for the most part. You can just explore these little areas that they give you. They do have like little linear sections to kind of focus more on the story aspect of it, but for the most part, the game is open-ended. And if you know me, personally, I'm more of the type of player who likes having a lot of options in what I like to do in the game. So if you give me like 12 different ways to solve a puzzle, I'm more likely to enjoy that than a game that gives me maybe 1 or 2. So Metro Exodus I kind of do like a lot. It ended up being something that I enjoyed more than I was expecting to, and I actually really like the relationship of the characters in the game. It gives you like this sort of family-like dynamic with all of them, especially with the main character and his father-in-law. They kind of learn to get along by the end, and without going into spoiler territory, let's just say like the ending made me very emotionally invested in these characters I got to know. So yeah, Metro Exodus is easily number 5 on this list. Number 4, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. This is a little bit more biased than some of the others because while I did love this game, I also was a backer for this game, and I was actually heavily involved with the community of this game. I'm good friends with the guy who runs the official website for Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. I've met some of the people behind the game. I have a autographed poster of one of the artists behind it, and Koji Igarashi himself, the main dev behind I guess more Metroidvania, Castlevania, and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. So yeah, I was very involved. I used to have a Facebook page completely dedicated to just posting updates and artwork and that sort of thing. So I was super invested. I'm a huge Castlevania fan, so when I saw the Bloodstained project going live on Kickstarter, I was fully invested. With that out of the way, I do want to say that Bloodstained, despite all that, it's not my favorite game of the year, but it's definitely one of the best that I've played this year because it gave me exactly what I wanted, and I think that's where it needed to strike for me. Considering that not a lot of people know of Castlevania who has played Castlevania these days, since it's a pretty dormant franchise because Konami sucks. Seeing Bloodstained come back, it just kind of felt like exactly what I needed, and I loved games like Symphony of the Night and Aria of Sorrow and other Castlevania games like that, and Bloodstained just kind of feels like a mixture of all of those games put together. So yeah, it was kind of just obvious I was gonna love this game. The only reason why this isn't any higher, because Bloodstained was almost my number 3 spot, was primarily because the game has a lot of technical glitches and because of the Switch port. I will still stand by and say that I don't think the Switch port is the worst thing ever. It only really gets awful when you get to the Tower of the Twin Dragons part of the game. But for the most part, I think it's just okay. And the technical glitches of the game kind of happen regardless of the platform you're playing on, and that kind of sucks. The good news is that at least from what I've played, the glitches are not game breaking. They're just kind of a nuisance or annoying. They're the kind of glitches that you can fix just by leaving the room and coming back in, and it'll be gone, right? But technical glitches are still, a little bit annoying. It could ruin the immersion, or, ruin a plan you may have. Or, hell, if you're doing a speed run and something happens that requires you to, leave a room and come back in, that kind of ruins your speed run. So, I don't know. Bloodstained, it feels like, Symphony of the Night with the bug testing team of Bethesda. And I guess that's the best way I could put it. This is a fantastic Metroidvania just with a good amount of technical glitches, even if they don't really ruin my experience. But regardless, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is easily my number 4 spot. Number 3, The Outer Worlds. Speaking of Bethesda, we have The Outer Worlds. If you don't know why Bethesda would have anything to do with this, there's a bit of a story behind the guys behind The Outer Worlds and Bethesda, but to put it in the most simplest of terms, they used to work together, and Bethesda wanted to do better. They didn't do well enough according to Bethesda standards, so they went off and made The Outer Worlds. The guys behind Obsidian did say there's no bad blood there, but I know the fan bases from what I've seen on Twitter and other social medias, people want blood there. And after playing many Bethesda RPGs, a lot of the times they're my favorites. Like, I love Fallout 3, I love Morrowind, I love Skyrim, and a lot of them are some of my favorite games. So I came into The Outer Worlds expecting a very similar experience, but very different at the same time. Since it's not Bethesda, it's, a team that used to work with them. So, I went into The Outer Worlds, and yeah, this is easily one of my favorite games of the year, by far. It's fantastic. However, I feel like in terms of The Outer Worlds' quality alone, it just felt like another Bethesda RPG with some, spicy differences in there. I've seen a lot of people say like The Outer Worlds is really going to show Bethesda how they should make a game, and if I compare The Outer Worlds with like their work on Skyrim and Fallout and all that, I feel like it's, it's comparable, but I don't think it's, a massive difference. Like, I don't think The Outer Worlds is this game that is far and supreme better than anything Bethesda has come out with, but it is definitely one of the best if you compare it to those games. The Outer Worlds is a game that I don't think I'll ever really forget about, at least certain parts of it. I started the game out as a sort of mercenary type, just trying to, make the money and, travel the galaxy and do that sort of thing. But as I got to know characters like Parvati and Nyoka, I kind of softened up in the game and cared more about the characters than I expected to. And I think that's a very strong point to have in your game. If I came in expecting not to care about anyone and left the game suddenly giving a shit. And I think that says a lot for The Outer Worlds. Had a lot of very interesting locations and whatnot. There's a little bit of few things here and there that if I were to nitpick was kind of annoying, but nothing major to make me, really regret my experience in any way. This game was just fantastic for a lot of reasons, and if there was anything that I wish this game had, I just wish it was a little longer. I'm typically used to playing games like this that last for over 100 hours or maybe over 90 hours or so, and The Outer Worlds didn't really hit half of that. I think I beat the game in like 30 to 40 hours, and I did most of the side quests that I was, that I found anyways. That just felt super short to me, and I know for a lot of people the shorter the game is, the better, because, we don't have infinite free time. So I get that. I don't dislike the game for that. It just felt like the game ended so quickly. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I know I've seen some people say that it's because there's no filler in this game, but I feel like I've done a few courier quests in this game, or some quests that was literally just go into the sewer, collect a few rats, and then leave. So I don't really agree with that. I just feel like the game was just shorter, and maybe it's because they just didn't work on it as much, or as long. Like, I don't think the development period of The Outer Worlds was super long. Maybe it was. I don't really know anything about that side of things, but regardless, The Outer Worlds, easily my third favorite game of 2019. Number 2, Control. I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who are going to find that to be the most annoying choice out of all the games on this list, considering the the recognition Control has gotten from, outlets like IGN and, the Game Awards nominating it. Control is from a developer that I knew for a fact made me want to play Control before the game released. Primarily because Remedy, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated development studios in the longest time. In the beginning of the decade, they made Alan Wake, which is one of my favorite games, period. I love that game. It's great story, atmosphere, everything. Just a fantastic game all around. They made Quantum Break, which was a genuine misstep for them, but Control easily feels like their best game since Alan Wake. Remedy, for the most part, has made fantastic storylines, and I think a lot of that is in due part to Sam Lake. Sam Lake is a fantastic writer. I was not expecting to like it as much as Alan Wake. I think it's arguably just as good as Alan Wake, if not even better than Alan Wake. And it's just a fantastic game. It has a great story, fun Metroidvania, great music, great characters, just all around great game. Highly recommended if you like story-based games. And yeah, Control was easily my runner-up. Number 1, Fire Emblem Three Houses. Fire Emblem was a really good game. Phenomenal in a lot of places. It was a fantastic strategy game, it was a fantastic RPG game, fantastic story, great characters. But the part I want to focus on talking about Three Houses is primarily how it didn't seem like there was a house that anybody particularly hated. And I know you've probably seen memes around of people hating certain houses for different reasons. But if you actually speak to a lot of people, and I've spoken to many people who were big fans of Three Houses or big fans of the house they particularly chose, and every time I've talked to someone, there was one thing that stuck out to me. That one thing being that no matter which house you started with, whatever was your first pick, you love that house. And I think that speaks volumes for Fire Emblem Three Houses. I feel like it's very rare to have 3 choices in a game or 2 choices in a game and have them all just universally loved. I've seen some hate for some houses in Three Houses, sure. But 9 times out of 10 is because of their love of another house that makes them dislike the other. Like, Three Houses, I don't want to get into stories. I don't want to get into story spoilers. And I don't want to get into the specifics as to why certain people love the different houses for many different reasons. But just know that Three Houses was so wonderfully written that you can talk for hours with anyone that picked a different house than you and just find out so many more details in the story, so many more characters that get along for different reasons, or different options as a whole that you just didn't even know was an option. It was just a really good game, and I feel like it did what Persona does so well, but just a tad bit better, in a way. Taking the calendar system and, having it exist with the purpose of making your units better, but also spending quality time with your units and the characters and getting to know them and making you feel, connected to them. And when the war finally starts, you feel so much more anguish when one of them passes. And this game just exemplified in this category. It was just fantastic. And I just feel like no matter which house you went with, Fire Emblem Three Houses was a phenomenal experience. And I highly recommend anyone who likes RPGs, who likes strategy games, or is just interested to give the game a fair shake. Fire Emblem Three Houses is my 2019 Game of the Year.
Этот поезд в огне, и нам некуда больше бежать. Эта земля была нашей, пока мы не увязли в борьбе. Она умрет, если будет ничьей, пора вернуть эту землю себе.
was awesome.